wanted to remind y'all, although I'm sure many of you have already done it, we do have a Trust Talk survey that's going out to the full membership, and we're eager to hear your thoughts on the Trust Talk series. The committee's been, the committee works their tails off to put a bunch of fantastic speakers together, and they're always eager to get more feedback and to get your ideas. One of the interesting questions in there is about the start time for this, and we certainly want to hear your thoughts on that. We've had over 100 responses already, so the membership's doing great, but keep them coming. If you haven't done it, please let your voice be heard. I wanted to talk a little about Leptuca thayeri. Everybody's been asking me, Andy, what is going on with Leptuca thayeri? It's all I hear when I walk around. Right, it's just this chorus of questions. Leptuca is the genus of fiddler crabs. And if you've taken Master Naturalist or if you've been on a safari with Tony, you've seen we have 3 species of fiddler crabs, right? And they've got great names. One of them is pugnax, like pugilist. Right? They're really good. They fight and they're well named. Well, Leptuca thayeri was not on the South Carolina state list, but this one is not in the state list because its common name is Atlantic mangrove fiddler crab. Where do you find mangroves? Not here. Yeah, Florida has them, and they go all the way down to Brazil on the Atlantic coast. And so they're very common within mangrove settings, which goes all the way up to almost Jacksonville on the Atlantic side. They're also on the Gulf side up to, what is the island? Cedar Key. And that's where the mangroves stop. But you may have seen that mangroves are spreading. And Georgia has small populations of mangroves that have gotten established. So their seeds are these long floating pods that then disperse in ocean currents. And most of the time they land in places that's too cold and the seeds die and that's it. But if they find a place that's warm enough, they get established. And there are little pockets, not many, but there are a few pockets in Georgia of mangroves. I'm sure seeds are found in South Carolina, but we don't have any plants established in there. But if you've got a crab that's tied to mangroves, you would expect maybe it's going to spread with them. And so some biologists started poking around, and they found that yes, they have now left Florida and are found in Georgia, and they even had a Beaufort County, South Carolina record, not attached to mangroves. They're showing up just in coastal salt marsh, and they're in Spartina, and they're in Jungus, our needle rush plants out here. And so they apparently are pretty flexible in their habitat. They're not purely tied to mangroves. And what happens when you add a 4th fiddler crab to the ecosystem? We have no idea. We have no idea what's going to happen. We don't know if this is going to be a blip and a few are going to show up and get out-competed by pugnax and all these guys, or if they'll get established and wreak havoc. We have no idea. But this seems to be a warming climate issue. Warming waters, changing currents, all that is shifting them around. And it's interesting. They're little bitty guys. I don't think they're as big as the red-jointed fiddlers. They're with the smaller guys. But we'll keep an eye out for them. And one of the ways they found the range extensions was by going on to iNaturalist. So if you're identifying things in your yard, you're helping inventory what's moving around. So just another plug to have iNaturalist on your phone, and keep taking photos of even common stuff, because you never know what it's going to actually turn out to be. All right. Well, I'm really pleased to introduce our speaker tonight. Felicia Sanders has joined us. She is with the South Carolina DNR. Her official title there is Coastal Bird Conservation Programs Lead Biologist. She also just said she's boots on the ground checking out the whole coast of South Carolina as a job title. Her research program is well known and widely respected. She now she's part of a team of 4 that she heads that's doing research and education about shorebirds. And while their work is done in South Carolina and a little bit in Georgia, the impact of what they're doing goes far beyond these borders. She shared a talk, I got to see her speak on Tuesday at the DNR's Shorebird Conference. She shared a talk where another species of shorebird, what we thought about migration patterns has just been upended yet again. So maybe another time she'll talk to us about semi-palmated sandpipers. But tonight she's going to be talking about whimbrel. This is one of my favorite birds and one I've become pretty obsessed with since moving here. And she and her team made a fundamental discovery about this species and how it uses South Carolina. She's also been involved in work with crab bank restoration in the Charleston Harbor, which is important seabird habitat. The work she's done has been recognized with a variety of awards, including the AOS, the American Ornithological Society's Conservation Practitioner Award last year. And she received the Order of the Palmetto, which is the highest civilian honor that the governor of South Carolina gives out. So. I'd love to turn it over to Felicia Sanders. Welcome, Felicia.
Thank you. Everybody can hear me? Yeah. Good. Well, it's a perfect introduction in a lot of ways because this is a whimbrel specialist. So, talking about a bird that loves sorry, not whimbrel specialist, fiddler crab specialist. So for those of you that are kind of new to the shorebird world, this is the lineup of shorebirds that are most common on the beaches, mud flats, oyster reefs in South Carolina. And one of the largest ones is the whimbrel that I'm going to talk about, the Hudsonian whimbrel. So we have about 40 species of shorebirds in South Carolina, the smallest being the least sandpiper, and the whimbrel are about this tall. They're a type of curlew, and all the curlews have a long decurved bill, and this whimbrel that I'm going to talk about has a sort of brown eye stripe that's pretty distinctive. There are 9 species of curlew throughout the world, and they're really of high conservation concern, already to have become extinct. And there are about 52 species of shorebirds that are in North America, and you see them on your beaches, you see them on the mud flats, but a lot of people don't know that most of them head up to the Arctic for a couple months to nest. 2/3 of our shorebirds nest in boreal or Arctic habitat. And we don't really know why birds migrate, but we have an idea of the benefits of the shorebirds going up to the Arctic to nest. And there's lots of habitat up there. There's 24 hours of light in the summer, so these birds can feed and do their thing all day and night. And there's also very few predators. There's just a few mammalian and avian predators that would eat their nests. So it's probably worth it to go up there and nest where you'll have more chicks. And I was lucky enough as a part of my DNR job to go up to the west coast of Hudson Bay for 3 summers. DNR let me go up there, and some Canadian researchers invited me to work on nesting shorebirds. And I was very near Churchill, and when I arrived, I thought, this kind of looks like the Midwest. I've been there, done that. But then I saw a polar bear and beluga whales in the water. Arctic foxes, we had to have a shotgun all times for polar bears, and I thought, yeah, I'm very far from home. And that was a trip to the Charleston airport and a plane and a helicopter, and I'm thinking, these birds are flying this whole way, and I have all this baggage. Just incredible. These birds flew up here from South Carolina to nest. I actually took this picture of Hudson Bay June 29th. So again, I am far from home. This is a very rough climate these birds have come to the nest. Another picture, we were actually monitoring whimbrel nesting. This is my field partner, parasitic Jaeger. We were very near a parasitic Jaeger nest. And these birds can eat whimbrel eggs and chicks and even perhaps adults. But still very few avian predators up there, the Jaegers and the ravens.
Did you stomp his nest?
I know, I wanted to, but no. So I met a brilliant undergraduate student, Andy Johnson, when I was up there, and I helped him tag whimbrel. And this is a whimbrel nest in the Arctic, 4 eggs, and this was a really simple trap we had. It's a hoop trap. We pulled it over. There's a little pin that kept it sort of camouflaged. We pulled a fishing line far back, put a piece of cloth over us, and waited till the adult went on the nest. And we pulled the string, and the nest jumped over the bird, and we were able to run up and grab the adult whimbrel. And so he was banding these whimbrel. Each bird had a unique flag tag on it. It had a unique code on its flag, type of band on the leg. And on the back was a tiny tracking device. They're called geolocators. They're fairly simple, cheap, undergraduate honors project at Cornell. But this enabled him to study their migration patterns. But the downside is, there's a couple downsides with these, but one is that they're only accurate to about 80 miles. But that's fine for birds that are traveling across the hemisphere, but not good for microhabitat studies. So the whimbrel on the Atlantic coast, we know they nest in the Arctic, along Hudson Bay, and then all the way west to Alaska. And the ones on the Atlantic coast winter on the north coast of South America. And his project found that most of them stopped in 2 places on the Atlantic coast in the spring. So they spent the winter 6 or 7 months in South America, and then they stopped for, on average, 34 days, about a month, somewhere on the Atlantic coast, and primarily on the South Carolina, Georgia coast. And then they went and nested in the Arctic, and then they flew directly back to South America. So again, these geolocators are only accurate to about 80 miles, so he wasn't really sure where, and he published a paper, and that was fantastic. Okay, back to South Carolina where I work. DeVoe Bank Seabird Sanctuary, it is owned and managed by the agency I work for. It's just a shifting sandbar. There's just grasses, not big trees. It's constantly moving and completely surrounded by water, and lots of currents around it. And if you're not familiar with where it is at the mouth of the North Edisto River. I put a map on the left where Spring Island is, and then the arrow is where DeVoe Bank is. So it's just south of Seabrook and Kiowa, just north of Edisto Island. And on this island, because it's completely surrounded by water, thousands of birds nest. It's the largest pelican nesting site on the Atlantic coast of the United States. And lots of terns on the left are royal and sandwich terns that nest on the island. Orange bills are the royal and black are the sandwich terns. And they nest here because it's completely surrounded by water, and there aren't many predators that can get across the water to eat the eggs. So they just put their eggs right on the ground. All these terns are just hovering, incubating one egg, which is their nest. And so coyotes, foxes, raccoons, all the animals that live in the forest can't swim across the water and get them. So it's just a spectacular place in the spring, and that is really primarily my job, is to manage these big nesting colonies across our coast. It's kind of like the Galapagos of the Southeast. But on our DNR budget, we often just camped on Botany Island, just to save a little money, and as we worked over there, I live in McClellanville, didn't want to drive far. And so just kind of for fun, I would take the boat out at sunrise, sunset, just because I was really close camping before we were doing some kind of pelican work. And I started noticing thousands and thousands of shorebirds going to the island right at dark, specifically windroll, and then also at sunrise and then coming off the island. And I was really interested in nocturnal roosts of shorebirds. I had worked on just that topic kind of near where I live in McClellanville, and we had put tracking devices on American oyster catchers, another type of shorebird, across about a 20-mile stretch of coast. And I went out at night with a big Q-beam in my boat and didn't see any birds on beaches, on the edge of creeks. And with the tracking device, I realized they'd all gone to one island in the middle of Bulls Bay. And I thought, maybe this is another one of those nocturnal roosts. And these nocturnal roosts are really important because of the same reason pelicans and terns nest on them. They're surrounded by water, no predators are out there, they're kind of out in the ocean. Probably owls aren't going to bother them. It's the same reason a lot of birds also sleep there at night. So just started thinking about maybe this was a really important site for this species. And also, wimbrel are declining. As I said, a lot of these curlew species worldwide are of conservation concern. Wimbrel have declined by 3/4 in the last 25 years. So, and it's continuing, even surveys in the last couple years have showed that downward decline. So I continued going there even now outside of my DeVoe Bank pelican work. And I started counting them. And I counted 10,000, maybe even 20,000. And the population estimate for the Atlantic coast is 40. And the whole species estimate is 80. So that would have been a quarter of the species on DeVoe Bank off the coast of South Carolina. And so I called the shorebird coordinator with the Fish and Wildlife Service and said, I know you're not going to believe this, but I might have found a place that a quarter of a whole species population is. And he said, oh, well, have a nice day, that's great. Yeah, okay. So then I called a nonprofit shorebird expert for our nation, and he's kind of said the same thing, like, Felicia, you're with state government, right? Okay, well, that's so nice. I'll put that in our notes. So, and we also applied for a grant, and I asked why we didn't get the grant, and they, you want to learn why you don't get grants, and they said, we just don't believe you. Well, now Andy Johnson, that graduate student that I worked with 5 years later, he's graduated and he's associate producer at the conservation media team at Cornell University. And I called him, I said, I know you're not gonna believe this, but I think I know where 20,000 wimbrel are. And he said, oh my gosh, that's where my geolocator project kind of identified, and that's great. I'm gonna try to get a team to film it. He immediately believed me. I sent him a few snapshots with my cell phone, and he's like, good enough. We got funding. They believe you, they believe me. We got Matt, so he and Matt Aberhard, who has done David Attenborough films, Nature, Emmy Award winner.
Wow.
They both came down for 1 month. And I thought, I'm going to be a wildlife videographer. No, I don't. Because they dug in every single, late afternoon and hid themselves to try to get video of these wimbrel. They're very spooky. And so it wasn't just for conservation of the roost site. You don't want to flush them away and bother this incredible discovery of wimbrel. But also you need to get the video, and so they have to be really still. So I would help them shovel in, sometimes it would be a big hole and they put a blind over themselves, or I'll show you more pictures. kind of getting ready. This is Matt every single night for 1 month. So I would shovel them in, and then I would drive the boat back and go to sleep. And then they came out again after the Wimbrel had left. So the Wimbrel came in at dark, spent the night, rested on the DeVoe Bank, and then they flew away to their feeding places every morning just at dawn, and they stayed completely still every night, except for 2 nights, and the tides came in and it was cold and there were storms and they didn't move. I mean, that's how you become an Emmy award-winning videographer. And this is the films, these are all Wimbrel. Matt got this one morning. 20,000 Wimbrel leaving DeVoe Bank at dawn.
They have the same estimate?
What's that?
Did they have the same estimate of numbers?
You know, they did not estimate them from this video, but I'll talk about how we got that. It's still Wimbrel coming off the island. Wow. It really is phenomenal. Okay. So at the same time as they were filming, I got crews. We actually wanted to do a count. We got 4 different places on the island, and I got a lot of volunteers. I also said, you know, if you have Wimbrel around you, you're going to have to just sit still all night long. I don't want to disturb these Wimbrels. So a lot of people came with me. I bought a bivy sack, and I would just sleep on the island just so I didn't have to bother the Wimbrel, and we counted as they came in for quite a few more evenings. And we did count almost 20,000 Wimbrel. So that's the largest known roost of this species in the world. The Hudsonian Wimbrel is actually only across North America, but it's about half of what we think goes up and down the Atlantic coast, and a quarter of the species' estimated population. And we got a grant. We got a National Science Foundation grant after Andy had this video. And we partnered with Maina Handmaker at University of Massachusetts now to put these tracking devices on Wimbrel. And they take about 100 points GPS, kind of really accurate points a day. And her primary research goal is to find out what are these birds doing every day. They sleep at DeVoe, and we see them leave, and she figured out they're really fiddler crab specialists. They're going out from the island every day into the marshes and eating crabs. So Andy made a couple videos, but this one, you can look it up online, it's called Roost Ecology Primer.
All shell ice near dry neck are unsafe.
Let me read that.
At dusk, Wimbrel take off from across the intertidal ecosystem. They converge at river
Anyway,
mouths.
he made a video. I just pulled a little bit of it out. These are the tags that we put on Wimbrel. That's actually their location. So they go out into the marsh and feed on fiddler crabs, and then every single night they come back to DeVoe, and then they spread out again into the marshes at dawn to feed. So yeah, there's 2 great videos online that you can watch, and this one's kind of more like the science of what we learned from the tracking devices, Roost Ecology Primer. And just a little science for you. This is This is the tracks of individual Wimbrel for 1 month. And each color is a different bird that we tagged. And they're going out across the marshes, Ace Basin, I mean, almost to Spring Island. And then coming back every single night to spend the night together at DeVoe Bank. And what's interesting, individual birds, they're going to the exact same place. Like the size of this room, each bird goes to the same place. Some flying 30 miles every day to feed, and then coming back to sleep at DeVoe Bank. And a few of them we tracked for multiple years, and they're going to the same place every year. So really interesting stuff she's found out through our tagging process. Yeah. And I don't know what happened to well, that did have a map of North America behind it. Well, the very center is, oh, there it is. The very center is DeVoe Bank, and so it's really interesting, the birds that we tag in the spring. You know, they stop in the spring for a month, and then they go to their nesting grounds. They kind of spread out all over across the Arctic to nest, and all over the north coast of South America to winter, but all come to DeVoe Bank for a month and just really fatten up, get strong before they head to their Arctic breeding grounds where they might encounter snow, they have to court, produce eggs if you're a female. It's just really important time of their lives when they're in South Carolina to get healthy, to prepare for nesting. So all of Andy's video and his whole story got great media coverage. Lots of great national magazines picked it up. We are also lucky enough to spend a week with CBS Sunday Morning. They came out to DeVoe and filmed, and just incredible crew that really was respectful of the birds and our time. And actually, 5 million people watched the CBS Sunday Morning television show about Wimbrel. And they even came back last year to just kind of do a follow-up, and that was just really fun. And so, some of you may have seen this, Discovery at DeVoe. It's really the story of discovering this Wimbrel concentration. You can see it online. But like all of this my passion is shorebird research. But really my main job and what I spend most of my days doing is try to conserve the birds. And so DeVoe Bank has been open my entire career. And I have thought it should be closed to the public. But my agency has to kind of, balance the public's recreation desires with conservation of shorebirds. And so I took these pictures, and Janet, my coworker, just a couple years ago. Tons of people came to this DeVoe Bank where pelicans are nesting, terns are nesting, Wimbrel are coming in to rest in the evening, because it was open to the public, and it really is a political decision whether our islands are open or closed, because we are a public entity. And the top left is a skimmer nest. People got too close to the skimmer colony, and when birds come off their nests, it's really hot in the summer, the sand is hot, and the whole skimmer colony just overheated and perished. So I had to witness that. But here's the really good news. So the governor watched the Wimbrel film, because when it was on CBS Sunday Morning, the coverage just made it out to a lot of people, and it was closed last spring and summer. And it really was because this almost makes me tear up. The public said we demand it closed. And so that is a real win. That's what education and passion for these shorebirds has done.
Will it be closed every year?
What's that?
Will it be closed every
Yeah, this is a law now. And so the public called my office, they called the governor's office, they called our agency and said, we've seen the Wimbrel film, we've heard Felicia talk, she's been on the highway, we get it. Let's close that thing. And so, so last spring they passed a law that forever DeVoe Bank will be closed during, migration period and when these birds are nesting. No boat landing, completely closed. And I think that's a huge win for the birds, but the biggest win is that the people of South Carolina decided that. And also the locals that had fished and swam and drank beer there. I mean, the mayor of Rockville called me and said, I get it. We are willing to sacrifice our recreation, in our backyard to save shorebirds. And that's when you're winning.
Go for it.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, some of you have seen.
Possibly be done.
What's that? What's that?
You're not finished.
Okay.
Scared.
Well, okay, we're going to show the film that Andy made that got the asylum closed. I think most people just see a sandbar and maybe some birds flying over it, but they don't realize the incredible bird life that lives and roosts there. I've been going to DeVoe for decades, and we go during the day to monitor the pelicans, the terns, some of the shorebirds that nest there.
Oh my gosh.
But it's very rare that I go to DeVoe at night.
There's so many. Point, it looks black, but those are actually all Wimbrel.
I started realizing there's maybe a lot more going on at night than we see during the day.
Oh my gosh.
DeVoe Bank is a large sandbar. It's actually shaped like a horseshoe. In the interior are broad marshes and some dunes, some grasses, some low shrubs. It has wide, fairly exposed beaches. A couple years ago, I was anchoring the boat on the backside and I just happened to be there right at dawn. I could just hear swirls of birds passing over my head. Thousands of Wimbrel came off the island. I was just amazed. I thought, how had I never seen this before? I realized it needed further investigation and documentation. A Wimbrel is a type of curlew. It has a long decurved bill for probing in the sand for crabs and invertebrates. And it's a long distance migrant.
They are spending 6-7 months a year down on the northern coast of South America. And then they're making this jump up to the Atlantic coast of the US. From there, they're making flights up to their Arctic breeding grounds. We're talking days, sometimes even a week, without stopping, without food, without sleep. What that means, though, is that the places that they do choose to stop are really critically important.
On the northern migration, a lot of the Wimbrels stop in South Carolina for a month and a half. That whole system of marshes and undeveloped coastline is critical to the survival of this species. They spread out all across the coast throughout the day to forage in the mudflats, and then they come together to spend the night. And in South Carolina, that's at DeVoe Bank. It's maybe 6 feet, and it's pretty close to a full moon, so the tides are extreme, and the concentrated at a few spots. So it's a really great time to count them.
So Abbey Station at the southwest point of DeVoe, kind of on the sand spit, the very tip, we're kind of right in the middle, looking for the birds coming mostly from northeast. Here come our first big group. Maybe about 80 just came in.
These birds could theoretically be coming in from a tremendous distance away. As the tide rises and night falls, they're leaving those foraging areas where they've been eating all day and coming out to these areas that are a little bit more remote where they're safe from predators. That was another 40 that just came in.
Curlews worldwide are the group of birds that we know is prone to extinction, and Wimbrel are among those.
So this group here is like 180 flying over us right now.
Somewhere around 40,000 Wimbrel use the Atlantic flyway of North America.
Hundreds and hundreds of Wimbrels over the marsh.
That population already represents a decline of about half from where they were 20 years ago.
By now, there's literally thousands of birds all around us. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. 207. We won't be able to count that much longer because it's just too hard to see them. But you can hear them calling still as they're coming in. There's another group. And another group. Oh my gosh. The entire point all the way to those sides is covered in birds now.
We were all tallying our numbers, and it took quite a while to go through our notes.
64, 175,
I remember I wrote down the numbers from all the parties
140, 700,
and could not believe it.
65, 400, 750, 207. Holy moly. It's a lot of birds.
A lot of Wimbrel.
Yeah.
It was about 19,500 birds.
That blew my mind because that's half, literally half of estimates of how many Wimbrel there are on the Atlantic coast. For all of them to be coming in to roost on this one tiny island, that blew my mind. We've never encountered this many Wimbrel in any one spot anywhere else in the world. That is unique. That means that DeVoe is a really special place.
A discovery of this size really seemed impossible. How could there be a half of the estimated population at one place? And personally, in my backyard in South Carolina,
there are certain things that we should refuse to destroy, and those things that we should refuse to destroy, those things that really define us, that make us unique, that bring us together. And in South Carolina, by preserving those places, we have refused to destroy the best part of us. We've created a good habitat for Wimbrel, we've given them a chance, and we can have a responsibility to do what we can to keep them from becoming extinct. Because we know that the future of that species is in our hands.
We know how the decline of Wimbrel potentially ends. We know how that story could end. But their population size is still large enough at this moment that we have the time to do something before it's too late.
seeing thousands of Wimbrel come into roost at night, it kind of just gives you hope that so many birds exist. It's one of the most phenomenal sights I've ever seen in my life.
I don't think there's anybody that doesn't love a beautiful thing. You don't even have to know what they're called, what the birds are, and you watch them come in on that sunset. And you have to be amazed, you have to be astounded, and you have to be proud to know that that's here.
questions, or I don't know if we have time. Uh-oh, quite a few.
Could you talk a minute about the effect of the rising sea and the sinking landmass of the boat?
Gosh, I don't, not my area of expertise, but it has eroded in the last years, but this sandbar offshore has kind of developed. We're still calling it DeVoe Bank, and they're all going there. So I think they still have a place to roost at night, but you know, the future is kind of bleak if climate change really just destroys all these ephemeral sandbars, and I really don't know what the future looks like for these birds that live right on the edge. But yeah, not my area expertise really. Yeah.
Is there any danger of running out of fiddler crabs?
Oh. Maybe Andy's expertise, but I kind of doubt it.
You might repeat the questions.
Oh, okay. Any danger of running out of fiddler crabs?
Wouldn't think so.
Probably not. I think there are other greater threats. You know, I don't why are they declining? There's a lot of there are reasons, but the lack of fiddler crabs, probably not. Yeah.
So a follow-up.
Yes, you.
So is there a reasonable understanding of this, what sounds like an alarming rate of decline of the population? In other words, what's causing this significant decline?
Yeah, actually all shorebirds are really declining, and there are kind of recently a lot of people discovered that South Americans, specifically French South American countries, are still shooting shorebirds, and there's been an international effort to, I guess, educate them on the effect on the population. And I know a lot of countries have whimbrel off the hunting list now. And then also I worked with a professor at, when I got to go up to the Arctic. She had been working at one site for over 50 years. It's just incredible woman that's worked her whole life and into a older age. And she had seen whimbrel habitat that's wide open, no trees, become forested. So definitely the Arctic is changing with climate change, and that is changing their habitat that they'll nest in. And also I think just these birds that are migrating across the hemisphere, they're just running into oil spills here and there, and hurricanes. I mean, just that is a very dangerous flight. But we're still not completely certain why these birds are declining so fast. It might be just all these things combined.
Thank you.
Yeah, back there.
Was the 5 million who saw the Sunday morning on CBS, would you call that a net positive, or was it a net negative? With all the curious minds with vested intentions that might have found themselves getting closer and closer to the actual,
Yeah, that is a really good question. When I first told Andy, my friend who made the film, I told him about it, and he said we could make a film, and the Cornell Lab of Ornithology is just an incredible entity, and they could really put it out to the nation. They have social media experts. And I thought, gosh, is this gonna get people to come and disturb the birds? And he said, no, this will impact conservation. Their team said that, and I trusted them, and they were absolutely right. I'm completely have faith and support people knowing about these incredible things. I'm not seeing increased disturbance. I've only seen positive. Just letting people know about the incredible wonders of nature has only been positive. It's only gotten more support. So I was skeptical, but I am a changed person. Yeah, let people know what's in your backyard, and they will conserve it.
How long ago was that?
We did the counts in 2019 and 2020, and they did the film about that time. But it did, yeah, that's a good question. It did take, like 4 more years to get DeVoe Bank closed. But I've been working at this job 25 years, and I think I first spoke about closing DeVoe Bank in 2004. So it's a marathon. You have to have patience. You just gotta keep going, and you will win. Yeah.
Is there a way to track these birds on a website? Because you have tracking devices, is that available to the public?
There's newer technology now. Even a couple years ago, this technology is outdated, and the tags have stopped working. So, no. Yeah. Yeah.
So my question is, they spend a lot of time in Brazil. Are you working with the government or any agencies in Brazil, or what's their approach to protecting these birds?
Yeah, they're after Maina, who is now at University of Massachusetts. She's been very involved in a Wimbrel working group, and I went to one meeting like in person, and they've continued virtually. And it's really pulling together people from Brazil and the Canadian Arctic and just all the expertise to try to figure out how to conserve these birds. I've not been that involved, but I think it's just been a really productive, great group that's trying to work on the whole flyway. Like every place these birds stop, what can we do to conserve them? And so it's a really active group, and all hoping that we can stop that downward trend of this curlew species.
At sunrise, given that all these birds are going really different places, do you have a sense as to why they all take off at the same time?
Yeah, not really. And also none, like maybe one, maybe two stay at DeVoe, and there are fiddler crabs there. So, yeah, I don't really know. Maybe they need to hurry and get to their feeding places, but why don't they feed at DeVoe? No, it's so great to work on birds and biology. There's just so much we don't know, and it just keeps you scratching your head. I don't know.
Are there things that we can do as, observers and fans to support your efforts?
I think, naive when I started this job, and I realized conservation is very political. I used to give talks about, have a curve going down, and I thought, politicians will make the right decision, whatever it is, and now I realize it's really about like what the public wants. It's a very political decision. So I think probably what you guys are already doing, just showing support for conservation. I can't think of anything specific right now. DeVoe Bank's closed, so we kind of accomplished, I think, the real goal of this whole video project was to conserve that reef site. So thanks for that question, and just
I'm sure you're curious, where do you see a Wimbrel on Spring Island? Yes. And we have a lot in late April, early May, Palmetto Point. Go to Palmetto Point at high tide, and they roost up there. And then as the tide falls, anywhere in the entire Port Royal Sound in that season, you're likely to bump into them. When I'm driving in the morning on 170, I see them on the mud flats next to 170 out feeding. So they're all over the place, but they get really concentrated. I've had 250 at Palmetto Point at a time. So I'll have a bird walk out there at some point. So come join me. All right, have a good night, everybody.